When you think about product management, you probably picture apps, platforms, and software launches. But what happens when your product isn't just a click away and it's a physical thing in your living room?
In this Lorong product episode, we are going to dive into a niche field of product management. What happens when you combine an engineering background into the lenses of a product manager? We'll find out today.
I'm Nicole, this is Chongwei, and we'll be your host for today.
Joining us, we have Adhiraj, who is currently a product and engineering manager from PRISM Plus. You're also a winner of the IF Design Award. So talk me through that. How do you win the award?
Sure, I'll give you an introduction about myself first, maybe. Yeah.
Yes.
My name is Raj. I'm a product manager at PRISM. So I'm an engineer for many years as well. I started off as a design engineer. I was designing parts for biomedical machines at first. Then serendipity, I guess. Did a couple of projects where I was looking at products end to end. I thought this was quite fun. So I decided to get into product management. First for enterprise, like B2B products, and then for consumer products more recently. I worked at Igloo, which is a Singaporean smart lock brand, and then more recently PRISM, which is a smart home brand based in Southeast Asia. Yeah, I have design award. Well, I was at Igloo and was designing padlocks for them, smart padlocks, and we enrolled our product in the IF Design Award, which is it's run by this entity in Germany where you can submit your product and they kind of evaluate it based on a few different parameters, design, how effective the user experience is, how unique the design is, if there's any new features that you have which others don't have, and there's of course categories for it like building and construction, consumer goods, I think consumer electronics, and there's a few verticals you can apply for. So I worked on the Padlock 2 for Igloo Home, and that won the IF Design Award, which is pretty exciting. So what's the padlock, right? So typically the most common place you see a padlock if you've done NS is in the armory, right? You lock up your guns, right? Yeah, it was very simple. It's just a padlock and you have a lock to it. For you guys, maybe like if you've not NS, is you see it at your house. You lock up, or like shops, they lock up their location. So the main location that a padlock is used in is somewhere that's outdoors, with water, with dust, with grime. Pretty harsh conditions if it's say in the US or Europe, right? It's like snow and it's negative degrees, pretty harsh. So the issue is if someone needs to go and unlock a padlock, they can have a key. So you need to go draw a key from somewhere, or B, you have a combination, but then that's not very secure. So the main pain point with padlocks currently for heavy duty ones is that if, for example, you are at a telecom tower, which is in the middle of a jungle in Bukit Timah, and the key storage is in Jurong. Someone needs to, and you need to fix something. Someone needs to go back to Jurong, draw a key, and then drive to the telephone tower, right, which is very troublesome. And this happens. This pain point is also observed in other industries like mining, like industrial locations, like electrical distribution systems, like distribution areas and stuff like that. So the pain point is that you need to lock up a certain location, and they need to share access. So the padlock essentially makes your existing dumb padlock smart. So what we could do with my time at Igloo is you could create PIN codes and you can issue those PIN codes remotely. So you have a delivery guy on the road, like a technician on the road. Your telephone tower has an issue. You can send them down, give them a PIN code, an OTP. Yeah, like an OTP, and they can unlock it. Right, that's one. So the main use case is you can create these shareable PIN codes with which you can gain access to different locations, and that was kind of the main pain point I was solving. Now there was an existing product that they were also selling, like we were also selling, and I think the main thing we wanted to improve on was, say, the reliability in extreme weather situations. So for example, let's say your product is being used in Norway, Sweden, it's super cold, or locations in the mines where it gets like really hot, like 45 degrees. In these situations, most conventional smart or digital padlocks can't make it. So the effort was to design something that would A, be very convenient, but B, be very reliable in those extreme situations. So then we went about designing a product for those use cases. So yeah, just to iterate, the main pain point is how to share access and share access reliably. So it was a padlock with PIN codes and number codes, rechargeable, military grade reliability, which is one of the marketing terms that could be used in different use cases. Yeah. So we launched it at CES in 2023, and then we got the IF Design Award for it as well. Yeah.
How was the experience like presenting the product?
CES. It wasn't like a big launch like Apple, I mean, of course not. But it was a small event at CES, but it was at sidelines of CES, where we sort of got everyone together who was interested in the brand and key media personnel, and then sort of kind of launched the product there. Yeah.
Winning an IF Design Award must have been one of the most important moments in your career as a hardware product manager. But for someone listening who's maybe only familiar with software product management, maybe you could walk us through like what's different between like managing hardware products versus like a software product.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, winning the IF Design Award was one of the highlights. I still remember getting the email opening it, and we were like excited, sending out to the PR marketing teams. I guess we can talk about similarities first and then differences. So, whatever product you design, there are similarities in terms of figuring out what the requirements are, what the pain points are, what use cases the product would have, and then those kind of remain constant whether you're designing an app, a web app, a hardware product, or even a shirt, right? Then you got to figure out how to make it, and then that's kind of where the differences start. Because of the delivery process at the end, you're just validating and then getting feedback to make sure what you've designed and built is correct. I guess the main difference would be in terms of the skills required to build one. So, for example, on the software side, after your user requirements are gathered, I guess you go about doing prototyping, and then you create agile developments in terms of apps and sort of iterate in terms of getting the final fit. In hardware, we can't really do that, so it's more waterfall instead of agile because there are very expensive upfront investments in terms of molds, and there are regulatory requirements for circuits and radio emissions. So I think the differences sort of start to come into the picture when you start to create the product. But primarily in terms of what the regulations and the competitive environment would be like would influence what happens. Yeah.
So in software, you can launch an MVP and iterate quickly, right? So what does MVP look like in hardware, and where mistakes are more expensive?
Right, that's a good question. So in software, when you have your user requirements set, you know what you're going to make, you can have screens and you can prototype very quickly. So yes, if there's issues in the future, once you launch, you can fix everything with an app update or a software update. In the hardware side, we can't do that. So as I said, it's very waterfall. You do spend a lot more time in terms of figuring out what the user requirements are and what the product requirements would be. And then, of course, with modern technology, you have ways to figure out and, in a physical sense, get what you would need in a final position and do like user testing and user test with it. For example, we have 3D printing, and then there are new prototyping techniques with which you can design and develop PCBs. So the idea is once you figure out what you want to build, you'll build prototypes, you'll get actual users to test it in real world situations, and then sort of figure out if this is meeting your requirements. And if it doesn't, then of course you start off fresh and then you scrap it and then restart it. But the issue is with software, you can have something very scrappy without a good UI, and you can put it out there. And you can see how you're getting feedback, right? And you can fix it, and you can run A/B tests. For hardware, we can't do that because, yes, to some extent, you can have some sort of scrappy prototypes, but it still needs to do the job, right? I think a common idea is they say that in an agile sense, if you want to develop an electric vehicle, you start off with a cycle, and then you go to a three-wheeler, a tuk-tuk, and you go to a car, and then you go to a normal car, and then an electric vehicle. Can't really do that in hardware. For hardware, you probably build a scaled-down model of the same electric vehicle. Kind of looks the same, works the same, then you kind of expand it out. Just a parallel. So I think there are strengths and weaknesses and advantages and disadvantages of both. But I guess the main pain point is we can't fix stuff once it's out there because it's very, very expensive. So once we lock in and we decide to do something, then we need to be very, very sure that this investment's gonna have a good ROI. Otherwise, you die. Your business dies. Yeah. Your product dies. Your business dies. Yeah. There's no going back.
I think probably another difference is also like the people that you work with.
Yes.
Like typically in software, product managers work with like engineers, designers mainly only, but for hardware, who else do they like?
That's a really good question. So I think there are equivalent parallels. Requirement stage is very simple. You figure out what you want to build, what the requirements are, what the pain points are, what the job to be done is, what the user story is, right? And then you start developing a product. So let's draw a parallel between, say, an app and a hardware product. Okay. So you will have a product designer and a UI designer, UI UX designer. And on the hardware side, we have industrial designers. So they'll go ahead and design different shapes, figures, configurations based on what you need. Like, for example, a phone, right? There's phones with display, complete display. There's phones with partial display with a keypad, stuff like that. Like they give you options to solve what your final pain point would be. And then you have options in similar to UI, right? So that's kind of the first stage. The second stage is prototyping. So you'll have your engineers, your software engineers develop a very scrappy prototype of the app, which kind of works, kind of doesn't work, but at least you can feel what you need to at the end, resembles the final finished product. On the hardware side, again, instead of the software engineers, just the software engineers, we'll have, say, a mechanical engineer to design the product. You'll have electrical engineers to design the PCB. You have firmware engineers to put firmware, like software for the PCB, into the PCB. And then, of course, if the product is app connected, you would still have the app side come in. So at the end of the day, the product that you develop is with a few more touch points, but there are equivalent parallels. It's just a slightly longer development cycle. And as I said in the previous point, once you've invested in like tooling and physical fixtures, it's very expensive to change stuff. That's the only difference. But yeah, there are parallels in both. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Now we'll be deep diving into hardware product management. So for someone outside hardware, what's the biggest misconception about your day-to-day work?
When I tell people I'm a product manager, 99% of the times they kind of think that I do software stuff. It's a weird niche to be in, which I arrived in accidentally. So I think the biggest misconception is I'm doing software stuff. When I tell them I'm doing like physical products, consumer goods, then they're like, "Wow, what do you do?" I mean, like, that's so weird. I've never heard of anyone doing this. So that's kind of one of the biggest misconceptions, I would say. Not about what I do, but they just don't know what a hardware PM even is. Yeah.
I think like you mentioned, it's pretty niche of like something a product manager that would go into. So maybe how did like this interest kind of like develop?
Well, I think I arrived in the career with just serendipity, like just accident. I was always like interested in physical products, physical like building stuff. So when I was in school, my CCA was robotics, and that's kind of how it started. Pretty actively involved, school as in like secondary school and JC. When I joined NUS, I graduated from NUS with a degree in mechanical engineering, and I was in the DCP, like design program. Again, we were like designing stuff, prototyping, working on like industry pain points and stuff like that. So when I graduated, I became a design engineer. So I was designing like parts and assemblies for biomedical machines. And for one of the projects, there was a shortage of manpower, so they needed someone to sort of sit in between the research side and the engineering side to kind of convert whatever they wanted to. They had certain requirements to create a product, and then they needed someone to pull in all the requirements and then work with the different engineering teams, mechanical, electrical, firmware, to design that product. And as luck would have it, they put me in that project because there was a shortage of manpower. So I did that for a while, for 6 months, and then I realized this is pretty fun, you know. Like I get to see the product end to end, not just get requirements and design parts and assemblies, and that aspect, while interesting, felt very mechanical, as funny as that might be, but it felt very single dimensional. You don't get to see the product end to end. So by accident, I did one project where I was asked to do something like what a product manager would do, and then when the project got over, I was supposed to go back to being an engineer. I was like, no, I don't want to do this. And then I found a role at a startup doing product management for B2B products, similar stuff. And then from there, I went into consumer products for Igloo, a local Singaporean smart home brand. And then more recently at PRISM, where I do a wider range of products. Yeah. So accident.
But somehow it has like...
Somehow it worked out. Yeah. But complete accident.
I think based on what you said, you worked on B2B and B2C, right?
Yeah.
So what is the main difference in the product lines in terms of defining the specifications on what to build?
Okay, I worked on B2B products during my internship time, as well as my first couple of jobs, and then B2C more recently. So my current role is completely B2C. People think that for consumer products, you need to sit a lot closer to the customer, but I think that's a misconception, because you don't really know who your customer is at some point. You have customer personas. You can, figuratively think that my customer is Jane, who is a 30-year-old, Jane and John, who are 30-year-old homeowners who want to buy smart home products for their home, right? But why are Jane and John buying your product? Why are they choosing you over another brand? What are features that you stand out in? It's very hard to know. You have ideas and you can see trends from data, but it's not possible. For B2B, you actually end up working a lot more closer with your end customers. So when you're doing B2B products, you have every brand which is doing B2B products will have a key set of customers. Like 20% of your customers will be responsible for 80% of your revenue, simple Pareto principle. And so those 80% of your customers are something you hold with your heart, like you don't let them drop. And then when you're developing new stuff, you're going to go to them in the development process when you have like a prototype or a design idea, and you'll validate validate that idea or that product with them very intensively. And then you would design it to suit your customers, or maybe perhaps new customers that you want to acquire in the same space. So B2B is a lot of back and forth, and there are very clear requirements because you're solving a very clear pain point, right? B2C on the other side, you don't really know what you're going into. Yes, you can see data, you can see trends. There are third-party research tools available to define your features, define your offerings, to choose your design, but there's often much less information available. And I think the second biggest difference is the go-to-market. B2B, it's a very long sales cycle because typically AOVs or ticket items are bigger. So for example, if I'm selling locks to NUS for all their seminar rooms, it's going to be a few $100,000, maybe even millions. And there's going to be integration requirements that NUS has. And so I'm going to have to customize and develop the product just for them. Concurrently, if I'm designing a lock for HDBs in Singapore, I'm able to list it on a marketplace in Shopee and sell it. And then my AOV, though, is lesser. The cycle, the product life cycle, and the sales cycle is a lot shorter. Of course, finer differences would also be in terms of what customers are looking for and what the product is designed for. For example, B2B, you'd often throw in a longer service cycle, a service part as a part of, like a service package as a part of the product, and then you need to factor that into your costs. And then B2C, you have upsell opportunities, you focus a lot more on marketing stuff. So I think differs from product to product, but as well as category to category. Yeah, hope that helps.
Yeah. I think maybe since you've worked in both, which one do you actually prefer?
Oh. Sorry, my throat got a bit dry. Talking a lot. No, well, I started off when I was in uni. I did an internship. My NOC internship was at a B2B company, which did really well. It was the best, like one of the best B2B places I've worked for. They were a hardware company that went from like zero to getting acquired for $500 million in like 7 years. Like very rare case, B2B hardware company. So that kind of got me interested in that space because it was very interesting to know. When I joined, there were like 40 people. When I left, there were like 150 people. 6 months, it was crazy. That was interesting because they were very close to the customer, the key automotive manufacturers in Germany. They were designing products for them. So that's interesting. B2C, more recently, I've been with PRISM, which is one of the fastest growing electronics companies in Southeast Asia. So that's interesting too. Personally, I feel B2B is, I don't think I can use the word on the podcast. B2B is, you can beep it out, but it's supposed to be very unsexy, right? It's supposed to be boring stuff, right? But it's slow. But when you build products for the B2B space, with hardware in particular, it's very easy to not lose your business. Because when customers have integrated your product into their operations and their sort of flows, it's very difficult for them to drop you. Similar to software. Like once they've done integrations, they can't really drop you, right? It's very hard. It's going to be a cost associated. B2C is more, seems cooler. Yeah, I mean, I guess it seems more fun. But then there are concurrent issues with it in terms of always having more competition in the space because customers can just go on a marketplace and choose to pick someone else. So both have pros and cons. I wouldn't like pick and choose, but I think it depends on what you want to do in your career long term, and kind of having a mix of both helps. Like my previous role at Igloo, I was doing both. They had two arms, Igloo Home, Igloo Works, and so similar products would be tweaked in certain feature sets to appeal to both use cases or user segments. Yeah.
So now that we learned about what hardware PM actually is, for the students out there that are interested in hardware PM, what's one underrated skill that makes a good hardware PM?
Oh, that's a good question. I think an underrated skill would be a passion for hardware. It's a very simple thing, but I feel when I've gone and had interns from NUS, NTU, most of the local universities, there are people who are very passionate about hardware, and then it's fun to work with them because they're genuinely curious in terms of want to learn. Like they have genuine curiosity internally in terms of wanting to learn more about how stuff is designed, how stuff is built, why do we do things a certain way, and at the same time, perhaps having some sort of very scrappy prototyping engineering skills is in a sense helpful. Similar to on the software side, if you can code, if you can like create scrappy stuff, if you can understand how I guess the technical aspects of your products work, then it would help you to work with the engineers better to create better products. Similarly, on the hardware side, if you have some sort of 3D design skills, some sort of basic electrical prototyping skills. You can like not only create stuff with your engineers or like before you even pass stuff to them, validate it, but you can also work with them to find a common fix to solutions. So I think, yeah, A, maybe genuine curiosity and an interest for hardware, and B, having relevant technical skills as wide as possible would help. So like, I like to think of it this way, right? There's a T-shaped, have you heard of the T-shaped product skill set?
Nope.
No?
But
Okay,
we can
okay,
share
okay,
it.
okay. This is common for all product managers, right? For like across product management. So T-shape means you have one thing that you're deep in. So it could be on the business side, if you're very good at market analysis, pricing, data analysis, figuring out what customers want, or on an engineering front, you're good at prototyping, creating 3D shapes and shells. For example, like if you want to make a new laptop, there's multiple designs, right? Like you can iterate yourself and then have something ready by the time you go to your engineers. So having some sort of like very basic but deep skill set in one vertical is really helpful because it allows you to like define your career in a way that you can use that one deep skill set to your leverage, your advantage. At the same time, being wide across all topics helps. So that's kind of what the T stands for. So a bit of marketing, a bit of data analysis, a bit of product launch communications, go-to-market strategy. So that kind of helps. So yeah, like just find the vertical of your T first, and then try to expand the top as much as possible during your school time, I guess.
Yep, I think that's pretty good advice for anybody that wants to try hardware product management.
You described the role of a hardware PM really well, but of course, every company does it a little bit differently. So how does working at PRISM Plus shape the way you approach product management?
Okay, I'm going to try my best to answer this question. PRISM, compared to the other companies I've worked for, is a little bit broader in terms of the role and the skill set, I would say. So I think most other companies I've worked for, the role of the product manager is to interview customers who understand what their pain points are, what they need for B2B, or like analyze data on the consumer side, but just generally figure out what you need to build, and then B, working with engineers to develop the product. And then once you've developed it, you kind of maybe do a bit of training for the sales, retail guys, and then they kind of take over. PRISM is a little bit more broad because not only are we working on the first half, but you're also doing a bit more work with the marketing teams to come up with new angles maybe for content or ads. For example, when we post stuff online, let's say we plan on 10 videos, what are the hooks going to be for each of these? You don't lead them, you influence them, you discuss with them since you're kind of the best aware about your own products. That's one. And I think B is, again, end-to-end, because sometimes production is outsourced, so then you also work a lot closer with the production aspect. So a bit more manufacturing based. And then the cool thing about PRISM is that we not only sell online, I don't think most people know this, but there's also about 8 or 9 retail stores. There's the digital presence. So there's like the website and the marketplaces, TikTok, Shopee, Lazada. There's also 8 retail stores. So it's a very omni-channel distribution. Yeah. Oh yeah, good, that's great. Yeah, so then you also kind of we control the customer experience or the consumer experience at every single touch point, from online, kind of what they see on the website, to offline, where how the product is displayed, and even influence how, say, the installers would interact with the customer, how the checklists would be when the installation is completed. So it's a bit wider in terms of it, but you only focus on your own category of products. Yeah.
I think you talk about like in general like what you do, but maybe let's go into like a day in your life.
Sure.
What would that like kind of be like?
I actually made a reel a few weeks back. You can view it on my Instagram, but yeah, let me. I guess it starts off around 9:30, 10. We kind of figure out. We go to our board and we figure out what we have to do for the day. The first thing is project progress. So you look at what projects are in the pipeline. Some projects are in the evaluation stage, some are in the development stage, some are post-launch you're evaluating. So kind of figuring out where everything is, and then you break down tasks for each project. My first half I typically spend with my engineers to figure out where the progress is for the products, if there's any new prototypes or parts coming in that we need to check. That's kind of the first half. Break for lunch. We have a stand-up after that or before that usually. where I work with my team who's working on individual projects as well, individual new products coming along to see what the progress is. And then post-launch is typically doing some sort of product testing. So either it's evaluating a new sample that's come over, like a physical product, testing it, or doing a review on a pre-production sample, or designing stuff to prototype and to ideate on stuff. So that's typically the next few hours. And in the afternoon and evenings, we typically have meetings with the other teams like operations, delivery, marketing. Of course, it can vary day to day, but that's kind of the broad sense. I guess the day is split broadly into like 3 or 4 parts. The first part is the timeline management for new projects. So you make sure that everything that you're doing is on time, from production from prototyping, evaluation to prototyping, to design to production. So there's projects at different stages. That's the first part. Second is doing the actual work to analyze the physical products and test them and whatever's kind of going on with them. And the third part is interfacing with the teams. And of course, depending on what stage your projects are at, one of these items might take a bit more of your time. Yeah.
Now you talk about your day-to-day, I want to ask, is there any specific day which you feel that is the most challenging or the most difficult, where you have to make a huge decision and it tests your skills as a PM or as a leader?
Okay, to be very honest, every time a product is going live, it's being shipped to a customer, you have your stomach churning because you're very uncomfortable. You've worked on a product. Our products aren't very fast. It takes a year and a half to launch something, right? You're very nervous if everything is right. And I think every time I launch a new product, it's always the same feeling. There's a bit of excitement, but a lot of nervousness as well, just to make sure that you've got everything right. People shouldn't receive something you're like, wow, so ugly. Wow, why the design so ugly? Why the feature set? Wow, why the feature set so incomplete? So that's always a thing that they will think through for a new launch. But I guess the second one would be, so every 2 to 3 months in Singapore, because we focus mostly on the Southeast Asian market for now, there's an IT show, a tech show. There's usually an expo or Suntech where there'll be all the electronics sellers on one floor. So if you guys are buying a house anytime soon, you want to evaluate, whoever wants to buy a house. I mean, you see a lot of people who've just gotten the houses, because that's a primary clientele, right? Go there and they try to see and compare, each product. Like, you've got everything on one floor and the best deals of the quarter pretty much. So we try to time launches or similar to that, try to time launches that are aligned with that. And what I kind of like about the whole process is it's very difficult on the consumer front to actually interview customers and to get a raw feedback on what they perceive your product to be. On the app side, on a virtual product, a digital product, it's relatively easier, I would say, because you can iterate and stuff. So for us, 1.5 years in the making, then you launch something, and then you actually see customers touch and feel it. And of course, you hear hesitations as well. So I think that's kind of every quarter, 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and me and all the other product managers are always at the retail store, at the IT show, the tech show. And we like to see and stand in the background to see how customers interact with the product, how the sales guys are pitching the product, and if the customers have any hesitations. And then whatever hesitations the customers have means that A, either your product's not good enough, you need to improve it, or B, the way you're messaging it and delivering the use case and pain points to the customer or the USPs is not clear enough. So then you will go back and iterate that, and you fix whatever your listing has online, whatever your retail point of sales stuff, like POSMs as we call them, whatever features are listed are correct. So that's a hard time, but it's also very important because it's a very raw and nuanced feedback that you can get from actual customers on the ground who will or will not purchase your product. Yeah.
Has there been any product that you kind of thought that it was going to be amazing, and then when you're at the roadshow, then the reception was just not that good?
Touch wood, that hasn't happened. Now, haven't launched a bunch of stuff for PRISM. Touch wood, everything's taken off pretty well. We've done pre-orders which have sold thousands of units, and so luckily that's been good. But I mean, there have been products in the past. I'm not going to name them, but there have been products in the past that we thought would do very well. Not for PRISM, my previous few companies, but we thought there would be products that would do very well, which didn't, and we thought that some products would not do well, and they just flew. So you can never know what works. But I guess as long as your fundamentals are very clear about who is your customer, what pain point he's solving, number one. So A, the product needs to solve that pain point. B, you need to have some sort of a distribution or a selling moat. What that means is either your distribution is better or your pricing is better than competition. And C, for stuff that's selling online in particular, it needs to look nice for that split second when a customer sees it. So as long as you have those three things, A, your product is solving a pain point, B, the pricing is decent, and C, there's a wow factor to it. Typically, on the consumer side, products will move. Yeah. And then if you have none of these things and you're Apple, then your stuff will still move. So
Yeah. I think you share with us like how life is like at PRISM and what you do. And I also heard that you're like hiring an intern soon.
yes.
So maybe like we can like tell us like maybe if you were to get an intern, what would they be doing at PRISM? What would they be getting their fingers dipped in?
Actually, I have an intern right now who's finishing his internship towards the end of the year. So I'm looking for someone to come in then or maybe January onwards. I guess it again depends on kind of what project you're on. So we have projects across different stages of the life cycle. We can probably talk about the whole life cycle later if you guys want, but it's either in the evaluation stage, designing or developing stage, or the launch stage. So in the evaluation stage for a project, we typically be doing a lot of market research. There are third-party data agencies and then just Shopee, Lazada and stuff you can analyze online, figuring out what competition looks like, and then what pricing looks like, what feature sets look like, to figure out what we need to build for that particular space. So that's one. Two would be working on specific requirements or doing renders for like designs. That's another thing. Again, depends on your skill set, right? Depends on what you want to do and what your skill set is, what I can put you on. Designing concepts. A third would be doing like tests for prototypes. So like, for example, if we have a new prototype of a certain product, you go about make sure that the app functions are working correctly, make sure that every tech touch point with the customer, for example, like this laptop, right? Like when you receive it, you might just think it's a laptop, but then every little touch point is precious. For example, how clicky is the trackpad? How tight or how soft is the hinge? Can you actually close the hinge? Can you open the screen without the base lifting off? Just small user experience, user interaction, stuff like that. And then for launch stuff, again, similar, we need to have listings ready on our website and I guess the marketplaces. So we need to make sure that the way we're messaging the product is similar to or better than what competition is doing. And so it would be a mix of kind of doing or assisting with a bunch of that. Yeah.
So thank you for that. We can now move on to Jenga, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So we're going to play Jenga now. Here's the deal. We stuck some questions under the blocks, and each time one of us pulls out the block, we read the question and Raj answers the question. And if the tower collapses, it's the end. I can start first.
I'm gonna take the easy one.
I already made one lose.
Okay, this is a blank one, so no questions. So,
There's also a rule, right? That if you knock something loose, you have to.
It's okay, we are flexible. Wow, okay. Fine. Go Chongwei.
okay, it's fine. Okay, 12.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, 12. Question of the day. What does a product lifecycle look like in hardware product management?
Okay, so I think it starts off by figuring out what you're building for. So I think step one would be figuring out who your customer is, what are their pain points, what are you building the product for, what interaction do you have with the customer, what interaction does the customer have with the product? For example, is it installed on a wall, are they using it in their hand, where the product is used, is it used indoors or outdoors? So you ask, like figuring out what the product needs to look like, right? If you're just designing something from scratch for a pain point, that's kind of how it goes. If you're designing something that's a Me Too product, for example, I'm designing a new laptop, millions of them already exist. I'll just get something that's the best selling in the market and I'll try to reverse engineer it to figure out why it's selling so well, either design, features, whatever. And then you sort of build yourself up in there to see with your own skill sets, what can you build better. So yeah, step one is to figure out what you want to build or what your product eventually needs to look like. Step two is working with your marketing or data teams to figure out what the features need to be in particular. And so when you have step one and step two together, then you go over to your engineering team and you're like, hey, I need to build this product which kind of looks like this. It needs to have these features, it needs to compete with these products. Let's start iterating, and then you sort of work with them to come up with prototypes for the product, and then you figure out which of those prototypes is good enough. So you go back to some of those customers you have, if it's on a B2B side, or like you show it to a random blind test of consumers to say, I have this product for this much with this feature set, would you buy it? And then once everything is decided, we'll do like a project launch. So in the project launch, which is like step 3 and on, you will have a very clean waterfall, very non-agile method in which you develop projects in different companies, different ways of saying it, but usually alpha, beta prototypes, then pre-production, and then production. So alpha and beta are just to validate the design, everything is fine, the molds have been opened, the circuit is ready, like the PCB is ready, firmware is sort of ready. And then you do a pre-production round wherein you do like a few hundred or a few thousand pieces depending on the scale of the company to produce the product, to make sure that your line has no issues, to make sure that when you buy a particular component, everything fits well. Like for example, you assemble this laptop, the battery isn't too fat, that stuff can't fit together. So you do a mini production, and then again you'll test that, and then you launch. So yeah, I mean, to cover it from end to end, A, you figure out what you want to build. B, make sure that your features and your feature sets and your product looks as per it needs to. You work to create prototypes. Once that's locked in, you'll typically do a pre-production cycle, and then eventually you'll do mass production. And then after that, when you send the product to the market, there'll be feedback, stuff you want to improve, stuff you can reduce costs on to improve margins, and then that cycle will feedback till a point where you're almost at a new product. So for example, a few years later, when your product is obsolete, you're like, I need to develop something new. You'll take back whatever you have. You see what new products or new features are available, new technologies available you can put in, and then the cycle just continues.
Just like the monitors, right?
Yeah, just like monitors. Yeah. Every year, if you have a new refresh rate, it'll be a new model. Yeah, you just have to be better than competition to grow, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. I forgot who's next.
I think it's your turn.
Okay, go ahead.
Right, yes. Okay. I hope I took an easy question. Let's see.
Ooh.
How are they so hard? Did you guys put something on there? Okay. Damn, it's getting...
Okay. No questions.
Nope.
Okay.
Oh, there's a question on this. Maybe I should put it back in. Fine.
5 is if you could PM for any fictional gadget. So, for example, an Iron Man suit, lightsaber, or Doraemon's gadgets. Which one would it be?
Wow. Honestly, it's a very cliched answer, but I think something like Jarvis would be very cool. Or like the Iron Man suit. But I think it's a few decades away in terms of technology. But I'd love to work on that project if you know anyone who's got a few $1 million to spend on it.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's
go.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Oh, I see a question.
I see a question too. Maybe we should just...
I will attempt to pull it out. Okay, questions 9. I think 9. I think let's do this. Pitch a product to us in Chinese. Since you have professional working
my Chinese is
capabilities.
very basic, but I'll try. Okay, I'll try.
Which product first?
I'll do the... Okay, I'll pick a product. Let me think about it. Pick a product in Chinese. 你们两个人都住在一个 HDB 吗？还是 condo？HDB 你们肯定有2个门吧，一个是铁的门，一个是木门，对吧？
对。
所以你们现在用电子锁吗？
没有。
没有啊？为什么呢？
我有。
你有啊 ？OK， 你为什么呢？
因为我的旧的锁门还行。
还行哦。
对。
因为你用电子锁怎么好用吧？有好用吗？
有，因为很容易
开门，对吧？如果你照你的钥匙呢，很容易你回家可以马上开门。所以我觉得最好的这个我们的产品是 PRISM 的 Sentinel 和 Sentry 的电子锁。Sentinel 是一个木门锁，那 Sentry 是一个铁门锁。所以有2个锁。那为什么你要2个锁吧？有很安全哦。那我们有一个新的功能叫 Dual Sync， 不知道用中文怎么说。Dual Sync 是一个联动的功能。那如果你回家你开你的铁门，它马上可以开你的木门，就很容易。如果你在你的家里面，那有2个按键，你按一个，你们的木门可以开你的铁门。如果外面有一个 food panda 的人，还有一个你们
外卖的人，
对啊，你们外卖的人啊，你很怕你 你的家没有其他人的话，你不需要开2个，那你可以按一个其他的按键，只有开一个门。那你去的时候，你关你的门可以自动关锁，对啊，很方便，对啊。
所以你会回家买吗？
我一定会考虑。
你可以考虑啊，很方便啊，你可以用你的指纹、密码、人脸都有啊，人脸都有啊，对啊，人脸都有啊，你回家跟你的手机一样吧。
But 多少钱？
多少钱啊？我给你好价格，我给你打折没问题。最好的是我们的所有的材料是航空铝合金。航空铝是什么呢？Aerospace grade aluminium， 跟你的苹果的这个电脑一样的，所以你用的时候肯定没有问题。有 scratch resistance, I don't know how to say in Chinese， 对吧？
I think that felt like I was testing our Chinese.
Really? My vocabulary is not like my prose is not very good. I only know a few.
It might have been
words.
better than ours at some point.
Very basic.
Okay, you can go ahead.
Oh, my turn now.
I drew it.
Okay, I see a question here, but wow,
Extraction.
it's impossible.
You have to slowly.
Oh, okay,
slowly
okay,
inch
one,
up.
okay. Do you actually own any Prism Plus products at home, and what are they?
I have a bunch. I have like a TV, of course, which is kind of the single product you associate with Prism when you think of our brand. I have a TV. I have an air purifier.
Oh, Prism Plus does air
Yeah, we have
purifiers.
air purifiers.
Oh,
Everything.
Everything, like most smart home products, everything between the floor and the roof. Trying to do that, right? Yeah, I have an air purifier, smart lock, of course, because I do those products. What else do I have? Oh, Robo Vacuum. We just launched Robo Vacuums a few weeks ago. One of my products I worked on. So I have Robo Vacuums as well. Like I have a Robo Vacuum at home. Yeah.
Which is your favorite?
My favorite, honestly, the smart lock's the most convenient because once you start using a smart lock, it's very difficult to go back. It's just so convenient. You
I would
don't have
think
to
so.
remember to bring your keys. Sometimes you forget to lock your house, then it automatically locks back, and then it feels very safe. And the second most would be probably the Robo Vacuum. Yeah, just set it up every day. It's gonna mop your floor. It's gonna clean itself. It's gonna drop back all the dust. It's just super convenient. Your floors are gonna be like super clean.
Okay, I think you've sold the lock to Chongwei.
I'll give you a good price later. I'll give you an employee discount. Yeah.
Okay, I think you can draw next.
Okay. No question.
How about I put it back?
Seems kind of risky.
Wow, this question is like. Question 2. What's the weirdest customer request or feedback you have seen for a Prism product?
Oh, I had a customer a few weeks ago at one of the tech shows where we launched the Robo Vacuums, where he asked me if the Robo Vacuum could be used on his lawn to like sweep up dust. Yeah, and then it was very serious when he asked me the question, and I was, wow, no, you cannot. Only in your house. Yeah, so you could like clean up once you like mow your lawn and there's like grass, you can just clean up everything. I was like, no, that's not possible. There are actually products for mowing lawns in the US and Europe. People like very commonly have big lawns. But yeah.
He really wanted a Prism product.
Yeah, I really want a Prism product.
He wanted to make it work.
Or what's the worst customer review you've gotten?
One star. Every one star is painful. Every one star is painful because you put your heart into designing a product. I don't think there's a single customer review that I've gotten which is bad, but sometimes well, I'm thinking of a politically correct way to answer this question. Sometimes people have expectations of a product for which it's not designed for, and then it's very difficult to deal with angry customers. Yeah, so I aspire that all customers who get my products that I work on will be happy. But of course, it's not the case. But any kind of situation where the customer has a bad experience with the product is not nice. And of course, we do our very best to make sure that it's resolved for them. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I won't delve deeper into this, but yeah, that's kind of the thing that's hard to say.
It's my turn now, right?
Yes. I think they're all near the top. Wow, the way you play is very aggressive.
Yeah, dude, you're
Oh,
so stable.
10. You just like.
Just whack it.
10. 10 is if you could pass down one PM lesson to the Product Club community, what would it be?
That's 1 PM lesson to the Product Club community.
I feel like you shared a lot of lessons already, but
I don't think
what's
anyone
one
has.
key lesson?
I think similar to the T-shaped thing, right? I mean, no matter what your first major is, try to pick, like product role is very versatile. It's very broad. There aren't really there aren't really a very, there isn't a very clean set of skills that you can build up to be a product manager, right? You kind of have to learn it on the fly when you do an internship or when you start working. But being good in one vertical would help you have the stability to learn everything else. I think I kind of have to say. So like, be good at one thing and try to learn as much as you can about the other skills that you might have. That'll help you. Whatever the one skill is, then you can leverage that to be better in a role or to get a role wherein that one skill is kind of driving your career. For example, if you're really good at say design, you should just pick up UI UX stuff or industrial design for that matter. If you can code, that's excellent. I mean, if you're doing a virtual, like a digital product, then you're going to have a big advantage over other candidates trying to become a product manager because you can understand what's happening at the back end. I mean, I think it just depends on what your primary skill set is. If you're interested in product, you can sort of leverage one major skill set and then try to learn everything else. Just kind of know. So the best parallel to use is that if you're using a TV, you don't need to know how the TV works. You just need to know how to use the remote. Yeah. So as long as you can, one thing, then you kind of can get by. And of course, whatever projects need you to learn at different points, you can always learn those. Yeah.
T.
Perfect.
I think it's your turn. He managed to pull out that really tight block. Oh. He's gonna topple it.
Oh. You have really stable hands there. I must give that to you.
He's very ambitious when he touches the tiles. Okay. I think we can continue though, because the thing hasn't collapsed technically.
That's a question. I see that. You can pick it up.
Can I take the top one?
No.
But the top one's going to fall if I take this.
No, you can do it.
Oh,
nice.
What's the percentage of a day spent in meetings versus actually building things?
I would say 50% of my day is spent in meetings. Because the issue with product management is, I do spend time designing like concepts and designing prototypes and designing stuff that I feel can go out and at different stages of the project. But most of the role is a role that's very influence heavy. So you don't control the end experience, but you influence a lot of teams along the way. For example, like if you're working on delivery, like how does the customer interact with the delivery person? How are they teaching the customer? That's also something that is under you. How the retail side is displaying your product is also technically under you because it's the end customer touch point, how you want to message. If there's content going out, just to do a sense check if the features are being called out correctly. It's a very influence heavy role. So I would say most of my time goes in the meetings, 50%, 60%, probably even higher on some days when you're closer to launch, when you've just got to get the team together, like make sure everyone's on the same page. Yeah. And that's probably going to be similar across hardware roles, software roles, across the board. I've spoken to friends, a lot of my friends are product managers as well, different kinds of products, different industries. It's kind of about the same. So when I need to do deep work, I won't go to work. I won't go to office. I'll just work at home. I'll mute my Slack and I'll just crunch in stuff for like 5-6 hours. Yeah. Otherwise, it's very difficult when you're at work and people will just pick you to do one thing and pick you to do another thing, and then you kind of can't get deep into whatever you're planning.
In one day, what's the most amount of meetings you have to attend? I would assume as product manager, you have to attend a lot of meetings.
Not in this role, but a previous role when I was launching a product at another company. I think north of like 10, like 30-minute sessions.
10 in a day?
10, like 30 minutes, like 15, 20, 30-minute sessions, 10 in a day.
Goodness.
You just got to get everyone on the same page and then, it was a bad day.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I think you can try. I don't know which one you will try.
It's going to fall no matter what I do.
How about you like flick one of the middle ones? Wow,
Can I touch it like that?
Of course, go ahead. Oh, it's a question.
If I do this then.
Okay, 3. What's the funniest moment you've had working with a factory or supplier?
Okay, so I have a my level of Chinese isn't great, but I can get by. I mean, I can go
I think it's
alone.
good.
No, no, no. I
You
mean,
did better than
I just
getting
have.
by.
I know some words, and then I kind of just string together and string them together. And if you have a better vocabulary than mine, you probably get an idea of what I'm trying to say, right? But it's bare minimum because I need to have that level since I work with a lot of engineers in China. For a few, like it's happened more than once where either I walk into an elevator or I'm at a trade show where I'm meeting like factories and component suppliers, and then I ask them for like a particular feature set or a particular kind of product, and then they start talking between themselves in Chinese, and then they're like calling me stupid or something like, "Wow, who wants this?" Not very often. Most people are very, very nice. Like most people are very nice, but it's happened, and then I overhear and then I try to reply back in Chinese, and then they get like very strict. Yeah. That's kind of the funniest. It's funny. It's just it's a lighthearted thing. I don't think too much about it. Yeah, but that's kind of the funniest. A few instances. I won't go deep into what they said, but that's happened a few times. Yeah.
That sounds fun. Okay, now what should I do? Like, should I try to knock this away? I know, like, but there's nothing else.
Wait, how many questions are there?
No, I think we've covered most. It's just about knocking it down now.
Wow.
I guess we continue.
Is that a question? No.
Is that a question? Okay, shall we check?
Explain.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't think I can do that. I mean, wow.
Who is me, right?
Oh, yeah, I
Okay,
think it's
okay,
Chloe.
okay.
You don't have
That's
to
just
take
easier.
the shame of knocking it down.
No, that was a really good shot, dude.
You can knock the one with the question. This is the one with the question. Why you knock it so lightly?
Like,
You have to do a super hard.
oh,
Okay, too bad. I think we can just answer the other questions. I think we have few.
Four, eight,
three, right?
Yes. I think this one is okay.
Any more in this?
Yep, I think let's go with 4. What's the biggest oh no moment you've had during a product launch?
It's happened in the past that we've taken, not in this role, previously where production has been delayed. It happens because we're working with physical products, new stuff which, say, factories haven't produced before. So, which like the factory hasn't produced before. So it happens quite often that you're getting for production, you want to launch, and then just because stuff can't get to the production line on time, or like there's quality issues, or there's like tolerancing issues, then production can't go through. So that happens quite a few times. It's part of the process. Bigger companies face it too. So like the smaller ones that I've worked at also do face this. So that's kind of not so fun, but you just have to get through it, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, Joy, you can ask question 7.
Actually, you talked about how you went for the like every time you launch a new product, it launches at an event, right?
You try to like no matter like what kind of product any company is launching, you try to time it with an event or a show where either you can display a product. For example, CES in the US. If you're launching something that nobody else is doing, then CES is the best place. I've gone to CES for one of my previous companies I worked for.
Like, this is the one that you got an award for, right?
I got the award. Yeah, same product. We were launching the same product at CES 2023, I think. Yeah, so you either launch it at like an event which is to display your technology, like CES or IFA, which is in Germany, or you launch it closer to your market at like a small pop-up or tech show, or of course you do a press release, similar to like any product, I would say. Yeah, it just helps to create buzz, right? The main aim of a new product launch is to create buzz and to get people to buy a product, and then from them to further sort of introduce your product to their friends and family, and then go from there. So wherever you can sort of get buzz, you'll try to get that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, wait. The next one is 7, right? What's the weirdest component or material you had to learn about for a product?
Oh, this is a very easy answer. Batteries. Batteries are very complex. Batteries, there are dry batteries, which is like your AA, AAA, but even within that, there's different chemicals. There's NIMH, there's lithium ones, there's like rechargeable lithium ones. There's like a whole array of different batteries that you can use, and depending on the use of the product, the battery can be different. So, for example, the battery in a camera is between, say, like a AA battery is 600 to 1,000, 1,200 mAh. And then a battery in a smoke detector can be 10,000, 20,000 mAh. But why can't you use one and the other? Is because how much current? I don't want to bore you guys, but basically the answer is batteries. But basically, the answer is batteries. Depending on the use case, depending on if it can be charged or not charged, depending on what environmental conditions the battery is used in, depending on how long it has to be used for, if there's fire, what the temperature is, the type of battery that you choose is very different. So I think batteries by far are kind of complex. And a close second would be antennas. Because depending on the shape of the product, your antenna has to be designed so signals can get out.
This is especially true for your smart home products.
Smart home
right?
products, exactly, yeah. And even like your laptops and your iPhones. So, and batteries followed by antennas.
Okay.
It's very difficult.
Batteries used for the smart locks also, right?
Yeah, but the smart locks have rechargeable batteries. Yeah, which are more popular now, I guess. Yeah.
Are we done now? Yeah, I think we finished all the questions. I hope you enjoyed the Jenga game.
yeah.
I'm glad you didn't knock it down.
Get through most of the
Already did.
questions.
Thanks for taking time today to speak to us, Raj.
We definitely learned a lot about hardware product management today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I hope people get a good time. Yeah.
Thanks for coming to the end of this episode.
Click here to see more of our long product episodes.